All right, cool. Let's get into it. Like I said, if you have any questions about API Nation stuff, anything at all so far that's come up with you or the agents you're working with, don't hesitate to just drop that in the chat whenever. But in the meantime, let's get into it. So just a quick background if this is your first time or you're like, I don't remember what API Nation is. Just the elevator pitch is API Nation is a tool for connecting different applications. You guys are pretty advanced. You guys are the tech trainers, so you guys are familiar with stuff like Zapier and Integromat. That's what API Nation is for real estate, really. And we're trying to make it not just that, but make it super easy. You know, Zapier is great. It is an awesome tool, super powerful, but you do sort of have to be like a technologist to use it. You have to be pretty familiar with computers and setting it up and testing it and making sure it's working perfectly. We're trying to make our stuff so easy that my mom could use it, your mom could use it, my dad could use it. You know, anybody who has access to a computer can click a few buttons to activate these things and automate their real estate business. So that's kind of the goal with us, the difference between us and some of the other options people have for syncing. And to find API Nation stuff from command, you're just going to go to the marketplace. So once you open up the marketplace, let me see if I can get my little cursor guy. There we go. Cool. And in the marketplace, you would just search for the app you're trying to connect. You can do that, or you can kind of browse around. Maybe you're looking at lead ads. And while you're browsing, you can actually just select the API Nation category, and that'll show you all the API Nation syncs for those ads. At least it should. Interesting, kind of shows everything. Oh, yeah, uncheck leads. There we go. So just check the API Nation category. This will show you all the API Nation products, everything you can sync. We have 34 right now. A question we get often is, what if, how does my team set this up? So currently, everything on here are for individual command accounts. So if you're using a team account or a Rainmaker account in command, these syncs do not work to sync the contacts from those into one of these apps. We'll be launching team account syncs very soon. Coming weeks, when we do, you'll get an email and probably a few emails announcing it because it's so big and so many people have asked about it. So just keep an eye out for that. And when we do launch it, there will be separate tiles. So if you're setting up KW Command and Google Contacts, for example, for your team, you won't click this tile. You'll click a tile called KW Command and Google Contacts for Teams. And I'm sure we're going to go ahead and just, to make that easy to find, we're just going to make sure this box is checked, and then it'll show you all the ones that integrate with Teams. You can see right now, none of them. So very soon, coming next couple of weeks, we're just in the final phase of testing. So cool. So this is where all the syncs are, and all of these are basically contact syncs with KW Command. We have some various ones that a lot of KW agents use with DocuSign, Rooms, and Loop if they want to use those. But most of the stuff that we've seen KW agents using have been KW Command syncs. And so the three big ones we're going to talk about today are Realtor.com, Zillow Leads, and Listing to Leads. So I'm going to open each of those up. If I can open in a new path. Nope, cannot. Cool. Let's just start with Realtor.com then. So you can see what you're doing here is syncing Realtor.com leads into KW. This is for just the leads from Realtor.com. This isn't the leads from OpCity. And so if the agent wants this, they'll just go through the process of signing up for it. And once they purchase it, it will be in the My Apps area of their marketplace. And there we go. Cool. Complete my purchase. Once they do this, they've purchased the sync, and this is how it is for Realtor.com. This is how it is for all the API Nation syncs. They've purchased the sync, it's going to offer to help them set up the sync. If they don't push this button, no problem. All this basically is going to do is link them into the My Apps area. So if there's a little bit of panic, they're like, oh man, I thought I forgot to push the button. No problem. All they have to do later on is just go into My Apps, and that's where the setup lives, the app lives, and they can just come in here, and they're going to click this tile to set it up. So when they click the tile, a couple things happens. We talked about this a little bit before in the past, but just to reiterate, when they click the tile, it takes them to API Nation. You can see I'm now outside of KW Marketplace. I'm on apination.com. It signs them in and creates, if they don't have an API Nation account, it creates an API Nation account with their KW command credential, their email. Like, it doesn't have a password initially. They can go ahead and set one here in their settings. But it does have their email address. If they don't want to set a password, they can always access their API Nation account by simply going to My Apps and clicking through any of the tiles for their API Nation products. So it takes them to API Nation, it gets their API Nation account established using their KW email, and it connects their KW command account to API Nation. So it's now ready to connect with Realtor.com. We just need to connect Realtor.com. So to do that, I'm going to click Connect Realtor.com. And first it's going to say, you need to name your connection. The names on all the connections, whenever it asks for a label or a name, these are, just in case. I would say 99.5% of agents only have one connection, so it doesn't really matter. They can just name it after themselves. But there is, every so often we'll have an admin, or we'll have somebody who's in charge of a bunch of different accounts, connecting them all through one single API Nation account. And in that case, they want to be able to tell, okay, this is Jane's Realtor.com account. This is Dave's Realtor.com account. This is, and so on. So once you do that, it's going to offer you this API key. And this is important. This has actually changed a little bit. So if you have agents coming to you and saying, my Realtor.com sync with KW command doesn't seem to be working, I would just delete the Realtor.com sync, the one they have running, go back to this, click on it, and go through this setup again, and you're going to create a new connection. What we had in the past was we had some agents who were setting up this sync, and they would just blow through this process, filling stuff out with just kind of whatever was on the top of their head. And then they would just get to, just finish it. And once they did that, none of the stuff was set up correctly, but it looked like it would work. So we've changed this kind of setup process so you can no longer set up a sync unless you've done it correctly. So now you get your API key, and you would go to Realtor.com and add the API key there. Let me show you what it looks like from our instructions here. The instructions here are super helpful. So you go to Realtor.com, click on the account, go to settings, and then in settings, you're going to go to lead settings, and then you're going to go down here to add lead delivery API under Connections Plus. So it's the Connections Plus product that we're syncing. So it's only leads that come through that product. It's not leads that come through your profile or courtesy or anything like that. It's only if you subscribe to the Connections Plus, which I believe is where you pay for a specific zip code and get leads from that zip code. So you're going to add lead delivery API to that Connections Plus. And then right here under API source application, you're going to select other application. And you actually need to add this URL here under application URL. So if I was an agent, I would copy this and paste it into the Realtor.com page under the application URL. And then that API key we just had, you're going to grab that, go back to this page, and you're going to put the API key under API key, and you're also going to put it under application login name. So just to be clear, you're going to go other application. You're going to use this URL here, put it in application URL, and then the API key goes under API key and application login name. Once you do that, this button will light up. You push test connection, and then you go over to API Nation, and you hit test connection to receive it, and it'll give you a success message and pass you right along. So that's what it looks like to set that up. Once you set it up, you get the test connection, everything works well. You're going to get passed along to this page. And it's just a couple questions, pretty straightforward. As people come into KW Command from Realtor.com, do you want them set as leads? And then if they happen to already exist in KW Command, do you want to use that Realtor.com information and overwrite KW Command? Or do you just want to fill any blank fields? Totally up to you. Also, you want to verify you're not using any other syncs to sync these two apps, just so we don't have duplicates going over because of another platform or something is sending them over. I haven't seen that happen at all with KW Command, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But just to double check, I'll hit continue, and that creates the sync, and now it's ready to activate. So you can see we're in the settings area of the sync. And I'm going to show you a couple things here in settings, which I just want you to know about as tools, just in case. The first thing is the filter. For Realtor.com, Zillow leads, and listing to leads, the filter is not really a big deal because, well, it could be a big deal. We'll see. But in general, people are not trying to block leads from coming in, so they don't need to filter it. The filter comes in really handy if you're doing something like syncing Outlook to KW Command, or Apple contacts, iCloud contacts to KW Command, or even a CRM, another CRM the agent might be using, like Follow Up Boss. Then you could filter based on tags in Follow Up Boss, or stage in Follow Up Boss, or tags in Google Contacts, or something like that. So that would be where the filter comes in. First, like I said, for something like Realtor.com, they're not trying to block people coming in. They're just trying to get everybody in there so they can follow up. So, but if you did want to use the filter, you just click on it. It'll show you all, this is also kind of nice, it'll show you all the different information you're getting from Realtor.com, and you can go ahead and filter on any of this. So, yeah. And you can just choose the filter. Let's say I only want people who have an email. I would say email address is not empty, and then I would hit save. Or I only want people who, are from a certain source or a certain type, or match the zip code of the property that they applied on. So there we go. That's the filter. And you can build out the filter a couple different ways. If you go to advanced mode, you can add a bunch of or rules. Either email is not empty, or zip code, the zip code equals 90210, but you can also add and filters. So it has to be this, one of these, and this. So a lot of different ways to build this thing. But as I said before, for something like Realtor.com, most people are just trying to get everything in there, and then they'll deal with it once it's in KW Command. Dealing it within KW Command is where the mapping comes in, so you can see exactly what is coming over and where it's going. First name is going to first name, email is going to email, phone is going to phone, last name, last name. If there's anything else they want to add, like for example, in the description, maybe I want to add some of the information from Realtor.com, like the message. I want to put that message in there. If somebody left me a message on that lead, and I'm actually going to type the word message next to it so I remember what this piece of data is that's coming over. So it's going to say message, and then it'll say the message that's coming over. And you can continue to add more and more stuff that you think will be helpful as you kind of are looking at this description. So you can add a bunch of stuff there. And then you can even tag them. So you could just say, everybody that comes through this sync, I want tagged with Realtor.com. And then it'll tag everybody. So you can easily find them once they're in KW Command. So that's about it. Then you would hit activate sync, and you're ready to go. So that's the Realtor.com sync. Like I said, the big thing there to kind of pay attention to is the setup. We do our best to walk all the agents through it, but we have updated it recently so that it's much easier to do. So if you have an agent who's having issues, it's not working how they hope, just have them go into, just have them, click through here. Click through that tile to log into API Nation, find their realtor.com sync, and just have them delete it. And once they delete it, have them go back and click through that tile one more time. And because they no longer have the sync, it'll take them through the setup process again. And then this time you're going to connect another realtor.com account so that you can create this new fresh connection with this fresh process that will most assuredly work. It's absolutely foolproof this time. So that's what we're going for. Cool. Before I move on to the Zillow leads sync, which is pretty similar, but I just want to show you a couple things there. Is there any questions about realtor.com syncs? Yeah, if you want, you can throw it in the chat. You can throw it in the Q&A. I wonder if I can. I don't believe I can unmute people. Oh, I can. Yeah. Yeah. So if you have something you want, if it's like a complicated question, just raise your hand. I'll unmute you and you can just throw it out there. But cool. Well, let's do the Zillow leads sync. If you think of the question or something comes up, don't hesitate. Throw it in the chat, and we will get you an answer. Zillow, very similar process. You're going to buy it. It's going to be here in your apps. You'll click through it to set it up. And you're going to connect a Zillow account. Again, you're going to label it. And the label can be anything. You'll hit create connection. And it's going to give you a connection ID. Again, we give you some instructions here on how to do it. But I want to show you we haven't foolproof gotten this one set up so that agents can't set it up incorrectly. So you do need to pay a little bit of attention to this, because we have had some agents go through the connection. They get to this part and it says, don't forget to use the instructions. You're going to need this connection ID. And some agents just go, whatever, I'm moving on. I've completed setup on Zillow website. And they click that and then they just move on. And they haven't actually put this where it needs to be. So if you do have an agent who's, again, having an issue with the Zillow sync, just take them through, make a fresh connection, follow the instructions we have here, and it'll take you through setting up the sync. And it's pretty simple. They'll log into Zillow Premier Agent, go into settings and go into app integrations, go into link app. So it's not a two-way integration. It's going to be a one-way integration. And they'll click link app, find API Nation in the partners area. And then they're going to go back, grab that connection ID, and they're going to put that as their login email address. So that also can sometimes throw agents, because this is just numbers. It's just key, basically, is what it looks like. But that is going to go into their email address. Once they do that, once they put that connection there, then you can say, all right, I've completed setup on a Zillow. And once you do that, let's go back to our Zillow sync. There it is. Once you do that, it's going to be available here, and you can click next. Again, very similar to realtor.com. Do I want to override information? Do I want them as leads? I'm not using any other platform. Cool. And then again, here's the configuration page for this. The filter's still here. If you want to sync, if you want to filter anything on the Zillow side, you can see, again, a ton of different fields here. Search criteria, Zillow assignee, property information, have they assigned a tour, is it a flex? Any of that stuff you can filter by. And then the mapping, you can come down here and tag it with Zillow, or do anything else that's going to help you follow up with these leads as they come in. So any questions about the Zillow sync? Okay, cool. The last thing I want to show you is the listing to lead sync. And this one is just, again, very similar. Buy it in the marketplace, set it up. The one thing I want to show you with the listing to lead sync is we have kind of a popular thing to do with the listing to leads to KW is to separate them out, buyer and seller, And that is where the filter can come in pretty handy. So let me show you what I've done. I've actually set up 2 workflows already, so I'm not going to take you through that whole process. And making the connection for listing to leads is way easier. It's, no agent can connect listing to leads incorrectly like they unfortunately can with a Zillow and Realtor.com. So here's what it looks like to set it up for a buyer and a seller. What I've done here is I've connected both apps. I've got to the settings page. And the first thing I did is I just went ahead and named this workflow buyer. That way I can remember what it does, what it's for. So that's kind of a nice feature. And then I actually used the filter and I said the type, again, this is pulling from listing to leads into KW command. So it's looking at the type in listening to leads. And I said, all right, the type needs to contain the word buyer. And so now only contacts, only leads from listing leads that have the word buyer in that type field will come over. I usually use contains just because it gives me a little bit more flexibility than something like equals. So that's just a heads up. If you know it exactly, if you know that is the exact word and the exact, capitalization and everything, then you could maybe use equals. The other thing is sometimes people will use this for something like tags. And if you do tags equals, hot or whatever, it's only looking for contacts where hot is their only tag. But if you do something like tag contains hot, then it's looking in that tag field for everything, just the word hot somewhere in that tag field. So just a heads up about that as far as using the filter. Let's go back to doing this type buyer, contains buyer. And don't forget to save the filter. But yeah, so I've named it buyer. I set up a filter, so it's looking for type is buyer. And then I went down to the tag and I just said, let's bring in the tags from listing to leads. And also I'm going to add this special tag L2L buyer so I can find these people in command. And I did the same thing with seller. I actually just cloned the workflow. So there's that clone button up at the very top. So I just cloned the workflow and it's making it right now. And I just changed the values from buyer to seller. So I just changed the name, changed the filter, and changed the tag. Oop, don't forget to save. And change the tag. L2L seller. And that was it. So that's what I've seen agents do, set it up for buyers and sellers. That way they can follow up with them more accurately and get them the information they need. So yeah, that is about it. That is the Zillow leads sync, the Realtor.com leads sync, and the listing to leads sync. Yeah, any questions about how to set this up, what we did here, or anything else that you're having with KW Command syncs and API Nation? Cool. If you have anything, don't hesitate to reach out. You can either email me, Gabe, Gabe, at apination.com. We do have some questions. Interesting. I wonder why that doesn't come up. Phil, where did you post the link? I found it on Facebook by searching. Okay, cool. There's the link. Can you talk about ZBuyer and the integration with command? I have it set up and I'm able to connect ZBuyer to command, but I'm not getting any bidirectional command communication from command to ZBuyer. Ooh, follow boss. Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes more sense. Hugo's not. Oh, Hugo, you're still on the call. Cool. Let's do follow boss real quick. Let's talk about that. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording just in case. One thing before we head off in the follow boss, just a heads up for everybody here. We had free trials for a lot of our syncs for a year. So it was like the first 30 days free. So if somebody was trying to use Google Contacts or iCloud Contacts or Outlook, it was free for the first 30 days so they could try it out. That ended about a month ago, but the feedback from the free trials was so positive, we turned it back on. So if you are thinking about setting up a sync for Google Contacts or Zillow or any of these things, now's the time to do it while the free trials are back on. So you can try it, set it up, make sure you like it.